target and keeping track of that. I give them a lot of credit to keeping us well informed of the comings and goings of our student. As you can see, can be a very transient population. That is, we still are holding at around 68 homeschool students. We started the school year in September with 64. We went up last month to 67. We're at 68. And for a variety of reasons that those students have withdrawn to homeschooling. That is the enrollment update.
I'm going to go on to the administrative report. I'm going to start with Dr. Mayo.
Actually, I want to congratulate Taylor Morales, who saw an extremely observant student and an excellent example of the type of student that we have here at Term 1. Career Day was a success. Thank you to Rachel Johnson and the alumni, as well as Cindy Electric, and the school grouping. Kate Anderson and Katie Butler put on a haunted trail that raised over $500 for the junior class. It was a great night. TGT is Friday. Katie Anderson has been working so hard. I cannot thank her enough. Speaking of not being able to thank enough, Trish Tupine and Cindy Olette created Tiger Pals, something that they're going to go over in December, but it's been highly successful. It's a great job with them. Girls soccer team advanced really far. I know Deb probably talked about it, but I'm very proud of that. Their accomplishments. They did great jobs, as always. Lastly, we have some, I think it's important to make the notice, we have some exceptional people doing exceptional things to Turtle Rock. Things that I don't think people realize. Mike Joyce and Bill Birch are really the two people getting that culinary kitchen together. And I think it's important that we recognize the effort that those two gentlemen are putting in. Kate Anderson has been giving her time. She offers so much to our students in the music department. Kim Staples and Katie Butler, as well as Patterson sitting right there on the governance council, always working for the school. Cindy Olette, Trish Tupine, Deb Spinelli, really what they do. Bianca Prouty and Joe Perry, and working so hard on our Pride Days. Just the school is very, very lucky to have such a dedicated staff working towards students. I think it's important.
Kim Granado.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So we've had a lot of great things going on at the middle school. First, we had our PBIS assembly, and University of Florida won. And we had a breakfast that we, Mrs. Plachek and I hosted for the students for the banner winner. We also had an outstanding student council led, and kudos to Mrs. Grow for putting on an outstanding veterans tribute. Students, it was a very moving event that we had. Also, dynamic soccer team on both levels, girls and boys. Great outcome. It's so awesome to see the students back in the groove and celebrating and playing sports. We had an outstanding sign up for basketball, so we're really excited about that. Also, I think the highlight of there's two things that I would like to say, and that is for Unity Day, where our whole campus celebrated. We all wore orange, and it was a tribute. Fellow colleagues here helped put it on, Dr. Mayo and Mr. Prentice, celebrating unity within our campus. Everyone wore orange. We had some great celebration of just accepting differences and positivity on our campus. Also, I want to thank a special thank you to Mr. Valentine Brown, who accompanied us, was one of our parents, who gave us an idea, and we took that idea and we were on a committee with all its principals and some community members along with Superintendent Smith and Amy Sayaj. Also worked together, and we had our first flag football. Over 40 kids showed up. It was just a meet after school, and we thanked the rec team and also Jill from T. So all of us together, it was outstanding, so much so that we're doing it again Thursday. Because the kids want to play flag football, and so we're going for next Thursday. So it's just the first of many things. So we've had a dynamic month here at TMS. So I'm really excited for all of us. And lots of thank yous to the community and to Superintendent Smith and my fellow colleagues and teachers, faculty, staff. We're just all pulling together and things are just on an upswing. Great.
Can I say one thing to
Larry?
Mrs. Burnett?
A tough act to follow there. I'm gonna try though. A lot of great stuff happening at the elementary school, of course. Ian, if I forget, actually, I don't want to forget, thank you for your service veterans, if there are any veterans out there. The elementary school held parent-teacher conferences on November 2nd and 3rd, very well attended. We really do truly appreciate the partnership between parents and the school. Really strong, really strong partnership. The elementary school started their after-school math lab last week. Again, very well attended. Thank you to all the teachers that are involved and the dedication to the students. The elementary staff shows a tremendous amount of dedication to the students. So thank you for that. Dr. Mayo had mentioned that Tiger Pals is up and running. Thank you to Ashlyn Ellsworth, Trish Tupai, Cindy Willett, Dr. Mayo, Jill Burbo, Haley Pizarka, and all the cooperating teachers for the efforts on this project. Really neat experiment. The high school students get 10 hours of community service, and the elementary school students get to be around individuals that are really positive role models. So it's been just a great experience for everybody. Shout out to the PBIS team at the elementary school. I know I always talk about it, but this team of individuals does so many positive things for the school and gets the kids excited about coming to school every single day. So we truly do appreciate that. Mrs. Granado talked about Unity Day. It was really neat. She spearheaded the effort. She didn't give herself credit, but she really did spearhead the effort in the district. So thank you, Mrs. Granado, for that. Finally, the elementary school held their book fair during parent-teacher conferences, and that was made probably over $8,000.
Wow.
So a lot of good stuff. So, thank you very much.
Can I just add one quick thing?
Heather wants to say something. Heather. Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to tell you, my daughter was in your PBIS breakfast and
Oh.
she loved it. And she made a point to tell me that your pancakes are better than mine. And also Jackson was in the Tiger Pals. And he really enjoyed going down to the elementary and they were playing card games and other things, I think, with the kids. So I think it's a win-win on both ends.
Yeah,
So
something that probably should have been started a long time
Yeah,
ago. But it's a
he really liked it. So
really neat thing.
cool.
You have to share the recipe on your page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a secret one, I'll tell you.
Heather?
Good evening. So we're still in the initial stages of planning and implementing the Power School SIS this summer, the new student information system. I have a meeting every week to go over the multiple steps and phases and the data collections that we'll be doing. I attended a virtual cybersecurity summit, which was a national summit that went over topics such as employee training. So currently, we try to be vigilant and I try to let people know a couple times a year, just be really careful on what you're clicking on and opening in your email attachments and suspicious links. There's also an upcoming webinar that I'm going to attend to go over cyber liability requirements that's being offered by our insurance company for the school and the town. Most of what they recommended that we put into place last year, we already have put in place, so we're good there. Bryce has been busy. He's up in the auditorium right now. He's been busy doing the TGT rehearsals. So that's really exciting. We're going to begin working on the upcoming technology budget. So we're gathering data and working on replacement cycles for hardware so that I can build out my budget for next year. And I'm gonna try to submit for the same tech grant that I did last year to hopefully get the flat panels, the interactive flat panels that I got for the high school this year, to hopefully get those and bring those down into the middle school.
Bill Birch.
So the good is the new boilers up on the roof are running and they're singing along nicely. And the high school's nice and warm. We came in about 20,000 under the original estimates. And I owe that mostly to the rigging crew because I've worked with a lot and they were phenomenal. So that saved us a lot of time. Then we will move on to the bad, which now we have a leak in one of the cast iron sectionals in the middle school boilers.
$20,000 savings.
No, it's worse than that.
Okay.
So we reached out to HB Smith, who was the manufacturer. These boilers had replacement sections put in about, I want to say 15 years ago. And they're built like a sandwich cookie. There's all these sections that go together and they pull together. So there's one that's leaking, which normally wouldn't be a problem, but when we contacted HB Smith, they said the foundry is closed. They are not even taking orders until May. And they don't believe that the new sections are going to be compatible with the old sections because they're changing the design to steam only. So the short-term plan is we're going to remove the section, shorten up the boiler, downfire it for a little less capacity so that we can get it back online. We have 100% redundancy here, so unless it's -10 for several days, that should be fine. We should be okay. And we have now asked HF Lens, who is our architect for the HVAC project at the 11th hour, to try to throw that into the grant that we're applying for. So that brings us to that grant. So we're working through trying to get that HVAC grant. The state has $150 million that they are going to shell out based on applications that are submitted by December 1st. That is a very close to impossible timeline for districts, seeing as they didn't tell us until the middle of September. But we were a little bit ahead because we had the engineering work going already. So we're hopeful that we're going to get everything together. You have something to approve here tonight. The Selectman's office has something that they need to approve tomorrow night so that we can get all this done and submitted by December 1st. And then hopefully we'll be awarded the grant, and then all you need to do after that is to get the town to approve the funding for the 30% that they have to pay. Turtle Lot projects for the moment are all tied up. The windows are complete, the painting has been done. Tom needs to sign some papers so that the vendors can
Saw
be
that,
paid.
looked at you, looked at Bill.
But at this point, we have nothing on the burner for Turtle Lot projects, so that's all done. As far as the grounds, both baseball fields have been plugged and seeded. The middle school soccer field has been plugged and seeded. Now that soccer is over, we can do the last field, get the turf blankets down to try to get some grass growing in front of the goals. It's a challenge every year because by the time they're done, the growing season is pretty much done. The guys seeded the front out here where the grubs have killed all the grass and around the school to try to get something growing there. Tomorrow, they start taking down the trees around the elementary school. And we just double checked today, and everything is ready for the possibility of a little bit of wet snow on Wednesday morning. So all the equipment runs. I talked to Joe today. We've got salt coming tomorrow, so we'll have salt should we need it. And here we go for the next season. The basketball court was refinished over this weekend in the middle school. There was also, so while the rest of us were all on vacation for a nice long weekend, I had a couple of guys here and 3 vendors here. They did some HVAC work in the kitchen, they did the floors in the middle school gym, and we removed some old phone equipment that had to come out up in the high school. Thanks for that, I think that's about it.
I have a question for Bill. Bill, where do we stand on that door assessment?
Door assessment, the bids were due, I believe, today. And the last I knew, we only had one architect that had shown any interest. I haven't seen the bids yet, but there was a special meeting with the building committee on Wednesday night. We're gonna look over the bids or bid, as the case may be, and see where we go for that. However, at this point, we do not have funding to complete that assessment. We have bids, but no funding.
Stock market looks like it's. So, keep our fingers crossed. Thank you, Bill. Michelle G. Morrow?
Yep. Good evening. So in regards to open jobs, our network manager, we have a second interview for. High school candidate, science, Dr. Mann has 3 candidates. Part-time English language learner, we offered and accepted today. She will start right after Thanksgiving. We have 5 paraprofessional positions open, and we are interviewing for a second shift custodian at the end of this week. I've been assisting Bill on a couple reports for the audit. That is next week or the week after. The payroll office and my office have been very busy with our health enhancement program. HEP is part of our insurance premium. It's a discount for us, and there's been an increased crazy number of questions and concerns. And I got 60 emails today, and 55 of them were HEP questions. So it's a very busy couple weeks. I have a couple upcoming webinars that I'm going to be attending on FMLA updates and employee retention. So, and I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to you and your families.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, Deb, tell us about successful soccer seasons.
For middle school, the girls made it to semifinals. Played PBJC. The boys made it to the finals. They lost, but they played a great game. Cross country team for middle school, we had 5 kids. Well, they all attended the QVC championship. And then we had 5 kids go to the state meet at Wickham Park. They participated. They did pretty well. It's a huge meet. We had, I think it was like 600 something kids. We had kids scoring around 300. So it was pretty good. High school, boys soccer's finished. Cross country, we had 2 kids go to the state open. And for girls soccer, we ended up going to the quarterfinals and losing on Saturday to Portland 3-1. We have basketball tryouts for middle school started today. There's 40 something boys trying out. And girls have, I think it's 23. We've got 14 cheerleaders trying out. High school doesn't start until the girls are the 28th for basketball, and then everybody else follows on December 1st. And we've got pretty good numbers for boys basketball. Cheerleading, we had 3, so we're not running a team. Those kids got redirected to another sport. Oh, esports is finishing up too. They'll start season, spring season shortly. Yes.
That the numbers in the middle school, is that pretty consistent with years past?
Not last year, but previous to COVID, yes.
Do we know how many? Actually, this is probably for both or anybody. Do we know preliminary, like how many of the middle school athletes, let's just say, are staying here versus also 8th grade all population? Do we have any early signs, or is it way too early?
It's too early.
I heard a few kids, well, there's a couple of kids that are looking for other places that are 8th graders, but can't tell this early in the season. They may say, oh yeah, I'm going to go there. but
The recruit,
It's just, I mean, you see the numbers on, and again, just speaking athletics. You see the numbers in the middle school. I mean, I went to a number of the games and the numbers were amazing. The support by the parents, everybody, staff, you name it. And I think there was 8th graders on the boys team. And how many were on the girls? 4 or 5? It was 9. Yeah. So I mean, it's nice to see those kind of numbers, but are they gonna move forward to us in
Well,
high
I know
school?
who on the boys' side is 4 not 4 going, 4
Or, so half?
And that's that core group that played travel together. So
Yeah.
That's why they were so successful down there. And the girls' side, there's a couple that talk about going somewhere else, but I don't know that for sure.
Tom and the BOAG and Ellis has just completed their recruitment efforts. I know that we did our own in-house. Dr. Mayo and his team spearheaded that. But we have, by law, we have to host them to come in, and that's already been done. But we don't usually find out until the spring what that number is going to be.
And I know we're doing everything we can now, but there's more, cross school, let's just say, awareness than what we did in years past. So I mean, I know we've ramped up the effort.
And also our football team still has a Thanksgiving at Thames River, which will be a stretch for us because they haven't lost a game. So that'll be a stretch. We're pretty beat up right now. We lost our quarterback, we lost our running back, lost a couple of linemen, so we're pretty beat up right now. And then they're gonna have their end of season banquet probably like December 8th.
How many Turtle Hut students are on the team?
16.
Fair enough.
Deb, is there any way for those middle school students that may not make the team that we have enough to field like a JV level, or did we not do that in middle school?
You talk about for basketball?
Yeah.
There is a JV level.
Okay, there is. All right. How many total would you be taking
Usually
between varsity?
around 15 to 18. That's even tough to get kids in. You're only playing 5 at a time on the floor.
Right. Okay.
When we were in COVID, we kept 22 only because we were losing
Case.
kids because they were sick. And we want to make sure we had enough kids to play the games. But typically that's not the number you carry. It's too hard to rotate the kids on the floor. Plus they don't get enough time on the floor to develop.
Okay.
I was definitely looking at just, just to plug off of kind of what you were saying, Tom. So with the QVP, they're considered in the tech school league, but the top like 4 teams of the tech school league are all co-ops of like tech schools in other towns. So I think that's what we're going to end up finding is that we're going to end up just a lot of co-op teams or what is going to be successful because there's more numbers, but that's what they're finding on the tech school league is that like Thames Valley is a co-op and they're in the lead. And Northwest is a co-op. I think they're first or second. So it's just a bunch of smaller towns and it's just like QEP. It's public schools mixing with tech schools. So I think that's kind of.
So Deb, to be competitive moving forward in years to come, I mean, you do a great job at recruiting. Principals do a great job at recruiting. All of the administration teach, you name it, and kids. Do you see us starting to spearhead and start looking forward, kind of what we did with football? Are we at that point in certain areas?
For boys soccer this year, we were on the fence.
Right.
And girls soccer for Putnam, because Putnam had a problem with their girls' side. We had a problem with our boys' side. So we had applied to the CIAC. I was going to help them. They were going to help us. However, both my girls' team and his boys' team each had 16. If we went into 16, we could pick those other kids up from the other school. However, at that number, we had to tell our team, our own kids, that they couldn't qualify for the state tournament.
So that's the other side of it.
I could bring them in.
Yeah.
But then we wouldn't qualify for the state tournament, which with the group I had this year was not going to be fair to my kids. So I said, we're not doing it. And the same for Joe Pishka in Putnam. He didn't want to have his boys, he had a team of 16 who played together. He didn't want to put them in that position either. So when you do co-ops, there's certain numbers for certain sports. You have, with 9 through 12, your numbers of kids that are there, like for soccer, it's 14 or below. If you have 14 or below, then you can co-op and be in the state tournament. But we were above by 2 kids. So we couldn't help putting them out because the CIAC would not allow those two to come in. Well, they would. I
Right.
told my kids
So you're
they
gonna
could
penalize
qualify
them
for
for it.
state tournament.
So how does that work in the middle school too? Like Eastford had a co-op team for boys, girls soccer, I guess. It
That
was-
was their own school.
Co-ed.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
co-ed,
co-ed,
yeah.
co-ed, not co-ed. I'm sorry, you're right.
They had a co-ed team. Girls can
So-
play on boys.
All right,
boys
so let me,
cannot play
let me
on girls.
flip the question around then. If we get to a point, if we went co-ed,
Co-ed,
I'm just throwing it out. If we went, ever had to go co-ed, do we get penalized and get dropped out of state tournament play or anything like, or CIAs?
on them girls, the three girls that played, two girls, they played on the boys team again this year.
But she said girls can play on a boys team, but boys can't play on a girls. team.
Right,
Right, but just their girls, the two girls that I was trying to pick up to help them out.
Yeah.
Still wanted to play because they're in their, into their high school.
but they
career.
can still qualify
They
for
played on the
states.
boys and they could qualify.
Okay, all right. So we have options moving forward before we went to an extreme of a co-op if we ever had to.
Wanted our girls. For our girls, you could do that opportunity, but you couldn't have three boys jump on the girls' team. It's not, that's not allowed.
Right.
We've been holding our own. I was
Yeah, I know,
worried
but-
about girls' basketball. We got more, a little bit more numbers at the high school than I thought we were going to.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We'll see what happens. The problem is we don't have a broad enough base with athletes of that particular sport. So yeah, they're gonna come out, but we're at the high school level, showing these kids how to dribble. We play in a very challenging league. So when you're at that point,
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying.
success,
You want to be
success breeds
competitive.
success.
Right, you want to be competitive.
Yep.
But at the same point, you also don't, you don't want to put them in a situation where every single game, it's, they're looking at their wounds.
Well, let's see what happens.
Right.
Our boys up there should be pretty good this year.
I met a few of them at Dunkin' Donuts, and they were very, very polite. Although I did have one say happy birthday, I don't know if I said this at a meeting. And he knew how old I was, and he goes, "You realize 16 more times you get to see the leaves change and you turn 70?" I said, "Thank you very much." But they were very, very polite, I will say that as students.
Bill Stiglitz, what's happening in the wonderful world of
Finally shifting the
finance?
focus of my report to 2023, our revised budget is at 19.8 million. Right now, year-to-date spending is just over 6 million or 31% of the budget, a little bit ahead of where we were last year. Encumbrances, 12.6 million, 64% of the budget compared to 66% last year. And projected spending at 18.7, which is 94% of the budget, which is exactly where we were at this time last year. As of right now, we have one department that is forecasted to be in a deficit. It's at pupil services at right around $1 million. Now that is before special ed excess cost. It's the usual suspects again, tuition projected to be over by 350,000, pupil services, contracted pupil services at 325, and transportation at 274,000. A quick update on FY22, through a lot of hard work from fellow department heads, we managed to get the deficit down to 211,000. That's down from 244 when we spoke last month. And we have actually just, in terms of other items, we're preparing for the audit, the timing of which has moved from this week. It was actually they were supposed to be here this week, but they've moved it, field work out to the week after Thanksgiving. Two reasons for that. Primarily, we had some data issues in Munis that actually required some help from technical support to clear up. Luckily, we're small numbers involved on that, but they actually had to run a script in the background to clear it up, which would allow us to close, which we should be doing actually tomorrow afternoon. Right, Heather? Well, it was good to get that behind us. So that was on our end, but on the auditor's end also, I think I mentioned to the board before, they've got some staffing challenges over there. They were a little late in getting us their schedule request.
the folks across the campus have kind of rallied and we're doing a heck of a job fulfilling that schedule request. So we're probably a little ahead of schedule on that. Another thing I wanted to bring to the board's attention, and I don't know if this gets mentioned every year, but the special ed excess cost reimbursement that I mention every meeting actually is subjected to some audit procedures. We just got through those and the auditors were extremely happy with the results. Very impressed with the level of documentation that was provided and no significant adjustments at all. So a nod to April Levesque and Eileen Deary because they really teamed up on that to get the support to the auditors. So it happened on time and ahead of schedule and they were very happy, which is always great to see. You'll all be thrilled to hear that we have kicked off the budget process for the upcoming cycle. The templates have been sent out to the schools and to the other department heads. And they're kind of pulling together their preliminary look, and that's due in December. Back to us. Any questions?
No cafeteria report.
Oh, no cafeteria report yet. I'm actually working through some, I was just talking to Michelle about that. Working through a detailed look at it right now for 2022.
Okay.
And I've got a little bit of accounting work there. So, but that will resume.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Is there any old business? Recall that we have any old business to?
I think just on the cafeteria, Melinda, the article that you had sent us recently, we're still in good shape for the remainder of this, well, 2022, beginning of 2023, correct?
According to Lisa, everyone is going to be able to still continue to get free breakfast and free lunch at the end of the year. And then we have to reassess where that department is financially. And I think Bill mentions this often that, you know, the program isn't fully funded by the, you know, the meal program that the Board of Ed does pick up in their budget, all of the health benefits. So one of the things we want to look at is, can that department assume that? But then there might have to be a rub, right? Whether or not we offer all those free meals or we absorb some of those costs. So we really need to reassess it this year. Many districts, as you could see in that article, had to stop charging families as of this month because that federal money went away. Lisa's done a really Lisa and Chris Murphy done an outstanding, and that whole team have done an outstanding job controlling costs and really getting a really good meal for our students you know, managing to really work the numbers. She pre-orders in months and months in advance. So they have a good system there. And the meals are good. Danielle had a meal last week and she said, this is really good. So we're excited about the menus that are changing and the nutritional monitor that's going to be activated at the high school. Dr. Mayo, has that started running yet? That nutrition monitor that has all the nutrition information? Okay, that's due to come online very shortly. So
in some of your discussions or other meetings with other superintendents and school districts and obviously governor and all that, are there any hints that they may be doing grants for this again or anything?
So that comes from the federal government. We haven't heard anything coming down the pike.
Right.
I know Lisa, you know, you all know the dilemma with the walk-in cooler. She did manage to get I think a 2-door cooler, but she needs it's a $70,000 price tag. She did learn from the state that a grant is coming out for equipment in January, February, and she's hoping to tap into those funds and see if they'll foot the bill for a new walk-in cooler, which then generates a lot of work out of Bill's department, but
nothing on the healthy meal side,
No,
or I mean,
nothing
or
on-
just meals in general.
nothing on the meal side as of today.
Okay.
But that keeps changing.
So we would have to look at, obviously, level funding, whatever we're doing on the board side. Do we know what that number is?
Bill, what is the benefits that we pick up, around 50,000, 40,000?
I think it's a bit higher than that.
Is it?
Maybe possibly double. I mean, I would have to take another look, but it's a significant amount.
So
Yeah.
when we do the
Yeah,
budget,
when we do it,
when we're doing the budget, we're gonna have to really look at that
Right.
number. And what, just like Melinda, Mrs. Smith said, that we're gonna, Superintendent Smith said, we're gonna have to really look at that number, because that number could potentially be a parent at school.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because one of the things that really stuck out in that article was the part about that the last time that one of the children or one of our students or ever had a meal was here. You know, over a weekend, and yeah, that's tough.
Right, they might have had snacks over the weekend. But
Right,
they didn't
but
have
not
a meal.
A meal.
I also heard from folks at the high school that there might be a student that brings their own lunch from home, but gets the free one and shares it with a friend who's still hungry. So think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
All
it's very important for learning.
Yeah.
A
Yeah, and then
hungry
it ties
kid
back to
does- yeah,
academics.
a hungry kid doesn't learn as well. I understand that point too.
Yep.
But then there are people and children whose parents can afford to pay for a meal who are getting a free meal.
Right.
That's true.
Right, so we gotta.
Because we'll
balance
still
that.
have free and reduced, if we did end up having to go to a pay system, we would
Correct.
still would have the form and
Right.
applicable
So-
people would still get free.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Right.
fill out the paperwork,
Right.
you obviously, well, there are children.
Yes.
And we're at a very high percentage of that free and reduced.
A little bit over 40%.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this has been in effect 3,
It's been since the
4.
pandemic where we were getting a lot of state, federal aid for the meal program. And I think right when we shut down, all the meals were for free. And really, it's been since then that we've been able to offer free breakfast and free lunch.
Right. Right. So I'm thinking we should be looking technically 4 years back on a budget side to see what the number was in order to get a realistic figure.
Food
Pre-pandemic.
costs have expanded too, like, because food costs have gone up because elementary PTO is doing breakfast with Santa on December 3rd for any Board of Ed members who would like to volunteer to assist. I'll plug that. But like the cost for, I know Lisa ordered eggs for us last year when we did it, and it was, I want to say it was like $75 for a box of 6 5-pound bags of liquid egg. This year, it's about $100. So,
Right, so there'll be
food costs aren't going to be the same as they were 4 years ago.
It'll at least give us a.
It'll give us a
number
starting
we can
point, but
look
it's
at.
something we're gonna need to figure out what the percentage of change is, so we
Right,
can
and we'll have to look
appropriately
at the
budget
population of the,
of how many are
of the
free and
schools,
reduced
too.
and how many are not.
well, that,
And remember that pre-pandemic, we were just coming out of a budget challenge in the food service department as it was, right? We were just starting to get healthy in that department.
Right.
And then,
We don't know.
so anyway, well, we hope. But anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I always keep my fingers crossed every day that they'll start to refund the federal meal program, so it's free for all. It would just make life so much easier. Remember, we don't carry any deficit balance for school lunches because it has been free. It's been paperwork on Lisa's side of things has been a lot easier, but we're really going to have to look at that department really closely and make a decision as a board which way we want to go.
Right, moving on to new business. Superintendent Smith has asked me to add another item, item C, and that is to add approval from the Board of Finance to apply whatever funds remain to the non-lapsing account to FY 2022's deficit. So do I have a motion from the floor, please? from the
Kathleen, I'll
board
make the
to,
motion.
apply that whatever funds are remaining in that non-lapsing account to the
fiscal year ending 2022 to the deficit of 2022.
Catherine, I'll make the motion.
Okay, I'll second it, and Linda seconds. Well, that would be item C, letter C. Okay, the first thing we have is the approval of the fiscal year 2024 budget calendar. The thing I want to say is that I will not be here on January 30th, but that's the third workshop, so that should be a problem. I'll be there. We have a motion, so we can talk about. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Good. I have a motion to approve the, thank you. Linda. A motion to approve the Board of Education budget calendar for the fiscal year 2024.
I'll make the motion.
I will second that.
Okay,
There.
all right, now, discussion. I have problems. We have problems. Okay.
Now, I see here January 16th, that's Martin Luther King's birthday. It's fine with me. Every day is the same to me, but other people may have plans.
Oh, that's a
The school may
holiday,
be
right?
closed, you know, so I don't know if that's gonna have to be changed.
Probably will, it's not a
And
school day.
Then the Board of Ed regular meeting, it says on 4/4, it's 4/3.
Thank you. It's easily changed. Okay. And we'll have to change the 116. Well, wait a minute, January 15 would be Martin Luther King then. That's a Monday.
No,
No, it's the
16th is the
No,
Monday.
23, I'm looking at 24, never mind. Okay, you're right.
Forward to that day.
Yeah,
Oh, here she questioned me.
I'm looking at 24, it says 24 right there, you know.
You just put it before the regular Board of Ed meeting on the 9th.
We
already
could do
have one
that.
on the 9th.
Right,
Already
but
have
do
one
a
on the
budget
9th.
session before.
We're already doing it on the 9th.
That's the regular.
That's a
That's a regular meeting. We could do it before that.
like 6 to 7 and then 7 to 8.
Yeah, we could do that. Or we could do it on the 17th.
For me personally, if we could do it the night, that would
No.
be.
I don't want that.
That's Girl Scout night. Nobody touches
Oh,
my
okay,
Tuesdays.
all right.
I'll be coming home from Florida that day. So.
But it's the first meeting, it's the first budget meeting, so if we only gave ourselves an hour, it would be restrictive. Can we do it on the 18th?
I have a different meeting, but I can see it.
Building committee is the third Wednesday, right?
Second.
Okay, so the 18th works. Shoot for the 18th.
Because I just don't want to limit ourselves to an hour on the first meeting.
Right.
By the time we roll around to the third, an hour would be, I think, we're okay. You know. All right.
Be able to attend, but I feel like any date we find that somebody won't be able to attend. So I'll be at meeting number 2.
Oh, that's right, you work on it.
Yeah, but that's all right. I mean, I feel like there's gonna be any date or time or, somebody's gonna have something. I'll catch up on it.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Actually, that first meeting is to pass out the budget.
Right.
It's organizational mostly, so Bill can send that to you.
Okay.
Well, if that's the case, that's what, I was hoping we'd get the budget on the ninth, so we have time to look at it.
Bill, you'll be able to have that budget prepared by January 9th, so the board has time to really look at it.
We have the first draft by then.
Because I want to jump in, you know,
It's gonna be a tough budget year.
yeah, very tough. But I
Opposed
want
to
to,
all the other ones?
well, no, but I want to give them a full vote. This is what we need to operate, period. I'm tired of, you know, I'm trying to cut the budget, I'm trying to cut the budget. And, you know, they're gonna cut it, we know this. But I want to give them, this is what we need to operate our school. We went in this year, last year with a deficit. We went in the year before.
So in that vein, when you're asking the administrators for their budgets, are we saying go in at a 0? Or are we saying go in with what you need?
Go in with
You
what you
need.
need,
All right, as long as, I'm good with that.
especially
But
Chris.
I don't want to cut corners before we even start.
Right.
Right.
This is what we really, really need. Now, I don't want them to, you know, I don't want to run on a dream either. I mean, we need to be realistic.
Oh, every year, we cut it down to skin and bones even before it gets to the Board of Finance, and
And
then,
then they
oh, well,
chop it
skin and
again.
bones,
And they
let's take
just
some
chop
muscle
an
too.
extra 100,000. for
Yeah.
every-
I would rather give them an inflated budget.
Not inflated.
No,
it's
but
realistic,
What is the
real.
appropriate thing that we should be doing here rather than us nickel and diming it before we even submit it?
Right.
It should be what is, to them, they would consider it inflated. I should rephrase that because that's.
Right.
But we should be providing exactly what it's going to cost to do the things that we need to
our
do.
job, right.
And if you're going to cut such and such amount, this is what we're going to be losing. I think we need to be fully transparent on that.
Right, but we need to have the explanation for what these costs are and the backup for all of these costs. I mean, we need to explain to the Board of Finance, these are the costs, this is what we need to operate, and this is where these costs come from.
Which we
Justification
do
for these
every
costs.
single year.
Well, I know we do,
So,
but you know,
Yeah.
they don't listen,
Well-
I understand this, but
That's fine. They can pick it up on the other end when our budget, start the light goes over budget.
yes.
And a couple things to remember as we're going into this budget year, that the process is, the schools do their budget, then they come before Bill and I, they present their budget, each department, each school. I do a run through first. If it's not going to line up to the mission of the POG, we're going to pull that out. But know that this is a funding cliff year. We have critical positions that we put on grants because we had no other way of funding it. And now we can't release some of those positions. So I look at that and I look at the overages in special education, and those two things alone worry me. And, you know, what are we going to sacrifice as a district? Or I'm looking out at parents in the audience. What are parents going to do to make sure that that we're properly funded and that these positions remain, because they are critical? So
And maintenance wise, that we're making sure that, you know, all of the cosmetic and non-cosmetic is getting picked up, you know?
I think too, Melinda, like when you go to talk to the Board of Finance about an overage this year, I would definitely send them a fair warning of what things are looking like for next year as well. Because I think that should be tightly put into the package where we, you know, what we're looking at for next year's budget. We already know we haven't even started. So I would definitely add that information in there so that they can get their warning on top of many other explanations, but at least they can't say they weren't blindsided.
They shouldn't be blindsided
Yeah.
because every year it's,
Right,
you know, it's an overage
Yeah.
because they cut the budget.
Right.
So, well, of course it's an overage.
right.
Sorry.
No,
Yes.
no, that's
Well,
fine, and we
Kathleen,
do.
when
and
this gets finalized with the correct dates, could you make sure each Board of Finance member gets one? Because, well, I just want to make sure, because I don't want them to say, we didn't know about it.
Mhm.
And not one of them ever attends other than Steve.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which
Okay, he
minutes?
comes and and like tonight, not one of them is on the Zoom here.
Right.
So I'm tired of their excuses, or they presume they know everything on how to run a school. But
The last time I had a discussion with a Board of Finance member about why they don't attend meetings, the answer was that it doesn't benefit, what is the benefit of them being here? Was the response that I got, that
Don't run for office.
it wasn't a department, there wasn't a return on investment of him being in this meeting.
Really?
Tell them not,
Yep.
whoever it is, tell them not to run for office. Or tell me who it is and I'll go tell them.
Oh, you know my mouth, I have no problem saying
I have
it,
no
so
problem saying it.
I
So-
can't make the next Board of Finance meeting when this gets presented, but I'll be on the Zoom. And I'll
So-
make sure
Well, Melinda, you raised a couple of things, non-grant positions, or sorry, grant positions, which will now be non-grant, right? We have the cafeteria, or whatever we want to call it, meals. Bus contracts coming due, right?
Plus, we found out today, 9 to 12% increase in healthcare.
Okay, healthcare. And.
It's like a perfect storm.
Yeah. We have
How
no
about the
other
fuel?
contracts coming up. Oh, that'll be the next one.
Yes,
But
we
have-
do. We have the paraprofessionals after the first of the year.
Okay. Smaller, actually, it's not really a small group.
No, that includes what, the nurses and.
Nurses and cafeteria workers.
And then we have the fuel, obviously, that's gonna rise. Hopefully, Bill did a great job at
We did half, right?
hedge
We
funds.
got
or
half our fuel.
Well, we bought half our fuel, but it was more than our budgeted number.
Right.
And so oil started to slide this week. It's come down about 11 cents. But it's-
whatever. You're gonna be my financial advisor.
It's not down
Excited
to,
about
it's not down to what we bought it at in September, and that's still, I wanna say, 40 cents above what we budgeted for.
All right, so we have grant positions, meal, food, bus contract, healthcare, fuel.
People services.
Pupil services, thank you, that's the other big one.
Yeah, pupil services, so.
So right there,
Repeat
that's
those
six
again, we-
major
That's a good point.
before we even start
I.
with departments.
And we're looking at a 240, 211 deficit, and what did they cut, 100?
Out of the
Last
last
year?
budget, I want to say it was about 100 and
No, I thought,
125.
Yeah, it was
like-
And that was just
originally-
because.
And that was
So
just, there was
I
no.
think that needs to be brought forth too, that if we didn't get that 125 cut that we budgeted for, we'd only be in a deficit of,
well, yeah, but I think we have to be
80,000,
careful though, Danielle, because I think that 125 is gonna come back in our overages. Won't it? Whether, like you said, either they pay it now or they're gonna pay it later. Aren't we going back to them?
Pay the 211.
Yeah,
Right.
9 to 12%.
but it would have been,
It's not that bad. considering
Better than the
that.
18% last
absolutely
time.
not.
That's.
So, I just think we all have to be aware, we have 6 major
Yep.
contributors to an increase.
And bear in mind, outside of the grant funded positions, over the 6 years that I've been here, we've more or less taken every little position that was non-essential meaning classroom teachers. We've cut those down. The high school is down at bare bones. I mean, our administrative team is down at bare bones. We've
And we've
there's nowhere
consolidated.
else to go. And I think the Board of Finance has kicked the can down the road so far that unfortunately, this year is going to be the year of reckoning because we just can't operate anymore. And I don't, you're all passionate. I'm passionate when I go to those meetings and I feel like it falls on deaf ears. So the only people that can make a difference is our parent body, that they say enough of this and that they come out and they vote. Sure, it's going to have a small impact on their own personal finances, but by and large, our students need the additional support. And I know that the PR team did a great job last year, and we probably need to have another meeting so that we can energize our families. But this is the year that we need our parents more than ever.
What are the typical times like of these meetings? And will that be
6, they usually start at
6
6.
o'clock? Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion? I know we need the revisions. But assuming that those revisions will be made to the calendar. Put it, can I have us all in favor of adopting the revised budget calendar? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. Any abstentions? And, it passes unanimously.
I can send this out to parents once it's adjusted before I get I can't speak about the budget anymore, and at least encourage them to come to these budget hearings. Maybe that'll help.
Heather, if we could get a Google slide. We'll blast
you
that
know?
everywhere. Yes. Yep.
I'll work on that. I owe you some.
Okay.
Okay.
Is this something we can send to Winnie too and have them post it? I mean,
Why
I know
not?
Val on Northeast Newsreel, is this something, I mean, I think we have to hit this one, put the calendar out as many spots as we can.
Yep.
Yep.
We have to pay
Yeah.
on a paid spot.
Social media.
That's a bit.
Yeah, we're gonna use social media to its power, try.
Tell you, being out there with the signs is a big effective thing too, because you see a lot of parents like, "Grr," you know.
Yeah.
I'll pull out the blow up unicorn costume
There you
again.
go.
I've got the banana. Right, you're good to go. Hey, if it brings attention.
Okay, moving along here. The HVAC bid specs approval.
Bill has something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill.
Just for the record, that should be the HVAC ed spec.
HVAC bid specs
Ed.
approval.
No, it should be the ed specs. It's the educational specifications.
Yeah, that's what it said.
That's what it says on the document. Yeah.
Okay, education specifications for the HVAC upgrades.
Yes.
Okay. We need to approve these. So do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the education specifications for the HVAC upgrades as submitted on the letter of November 8th, 2022 to the Board of Education.
I will second that. Okay. Any discussion?
I would just say, as a member of the building committee, myself and Bill Wachowski from the Board of Education side, this has been vetted. It has gone through many modifications and it has the best interests of the school. So I would recommend we pass this. Bill? Not to put you on the spot, but I am.
That's fine.
So as members of the building committee, you would recommend that the Board of Education approve these? As
I
it's
recommend yes.
hearing that, I will put the motion to the floor for a vote. All in favor of accepting the education specifications for the HVAC upgrades, say aye.
Aye.
Any disagreement, say no. Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. We have C. Approval from the Board of Finance to apply whatever funds remain in our non-lapsing account to the FY 2022 deficit. Any discussion on that? I don't know what that number would be. Any idea what the number would be, Phil?
Bill, yeah.
Whatever's left. use
It was like 20,000. You said we were about 20,000 under budget.
Motion.
It's $40,000 to $45,000.
Okay. Okay. So do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we give the approval to the Board of Finance to use the non-lapsing account towards our deficit.
Second.
Okay. All right, so
just heard from Bill that the number's somewhere in the vicinity of $40,000, so that would help bring it down.
And the reason I'm requesting that is because they're going to do it anyway, because we are in deficit. Bill and I had a philosophical difference. He wanted to leave the money there because there's nothing for a rainy day. Yet on the other hand, I know they're going to take it anyway, so I just thought I would.
But I thought that was there for the express purpose of unforeseen capital
Yeah, that's
issues here.
Well, the idea was not only capital, but special ed, and
Right,
it is
it's like
special
both.
ed at deficit. That was the only reason.
I don't remember the special ed being part of the stipulation, maybe it was.
Yeah.
It was.
I understand your point of it. I'm kind of in agreement with Bill because honestly, it should be a slap on the wrist to the Board of Finance members for continuously cutting the budget when they know year after year we have a deficit specifically in special education and they refuse to acknowledge that. But this is the only way that that's what they're gonna do anyways. That's where the line item they're gonna pull it from, but
The problem is it wipes out that account. And
Right.
If a boiler goes down,
We're-
or if a refrigerator goes down, or anything, we have no money to go back and try to do it ourselves. So we're gonna end up at their mercy again.
Right.
And I'm not in favor of, they may take it anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make the offer I wouldn't want to make the offer to them to take it, that should be here for emergency purposes to keep the school going.
So would you like then, in my letter, it depends on what side of the fence you're on, in my letter to request that any funds remaining, that remain in the non-lapsing account
Roll
for
over?
future issues?
Can it roll over? Can it roll over?
Oh, yeah, it
Mhm.
can stay there forever. And it can grow every year. It's like 1%, or can we do 2% now?
I think it went up a little bit.
Legally, we can do 2, but I think they only give us 1 or
They only
something
give
like
us
that.
one.
I'd be in favor of leaving it there. And if they take it, they take it. Then we can point out to everybody that they even took that.
And I kind of agree with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was an option.
How do we do that and make sure that it stays? I think where Heather was going with this, how does it stay in the Board of Ed side versus going in?
Bill has a bank account. It's there.
Yeah, but I thought it goes into the general fund and then it just miraculously disappears.
It's a designated piece of surplus, if you will. Specifically for the items that we've talked about. We have boilers, the special ed deficit was one of them.
Freezers.
And you're correct, it can stay there forever. I believe it's 1% of the unexpended portion of the budget, if I remember right, is how the calculation works. And it
No,
was
it's up to 1% of your budget.
It's
Last
up,
year.
it's up to 1% of the budget, so,
Right,
you know,
so
so whatever, but
189.
I think the state changed it
They
to
did.
2%, but our Board of Finance will
Said
only
one.
allow us 1.
But I thought we used to always get
I
white.
thought it was use
We
it or
do,
lose it.
at the
Yeah.
end of the year,
Yeah.
up until a couple of years ago, whatever was left over went
Yeah, we
back to the
get
general
white
fund.
clean.
Except the state made a law that you can keep 1% of unexpended funds for emergencies like this.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is we were still getting wiped clean, even though you could keep.
Mhm.
No,
No, not the last couple of years.
We haven't had
real?
any.
We haven't
I
had
thought we
anything to
had-
put in the account.
I thought we had to fight for $246,000 one year. That was in the lapsing account or whatever it was in.
No, that was special ed reimbursement.
It was the excess
That was
cost.
the excess
They used
cost
to
grant.
keep that.
Oh, okay, so that's separate from,
That's been changed, yeah, that's
Okay.
different.
all right, I knew we had to fight for 246,000, so I'm like, how are we gonna win this one for 40,000?
So it's,
well, but what Bill is saying, and I agree with him, is let them sweep it and then blame it on them. Because.
So Bill, when the invoices come in, which they all have, then you're just gonna pay out of that account because it was approved by the Board of Ed, by the Board of Finance. And then there's a balance there, which is reserved for capital or special ed. And the Board of Ed hasn't requested any money out of there. So my hunch is, or my assumption and my hope is that unless the Board of Ed requests it, it just sits there.
Correct. Until the next boiler or whatever it might be that meets the original spirit of the account comes up. And I'm sure that won't go on.
Right, which we have the boiler situation on deck.
They'll
So
stop
when we
breaking
present our situation, we need to let them know that we are looking at probably spending that money anyway that's in that account, because because they can decide to pull from that account if they want, correct?
I think, I don't know the logistics behind that, and I would like to look into that more, because I do believe the Board of Ed has to request it
Okay, all right.
to the Board of Finance.
But I'd request
Right,
it from the
whatever's in
board.
that account, we
Yeah.
have to request it, but I'm not sure. On the other hand, that they can just withdraw from it on their,
Right,
If they want,
to
because
help
it's-
offset
it's-
that, yeah,
our bank account.
right.
So I'm not sure that, because they approved that money to go in, I'm not sure that they can take it out on a whim. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bill will find out from his business association group.
Okay, so, okay, there's a motion on the floor now to ask approval from the Board of Ed to apply whatever funds remain in the non-lapsing account to the FY 2022 deficit. I'm gonna put this motion to the floor for a vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay.
Yeah.
Nay. Any abstentions? Motion fails. Okay. Any correspondence?
Usually a no vote.
Citizens' comments?
Can I ask a question?
You may.
Has there been any update on the school security committee at all? I forgot to ask with their old business.
Can't talk about
Not
Can't talk about
Well,
security or
If
public
there's
safety.
been any, like, has a meeting actually occurred?
There has been a
Okay.
meeting, that ad hoc, yes, right, and there will be another meeting at the end of this month.
Okay.
Okay, any additional citizens' comments?
I just want to make one, really happy with it. I know Amy was on, but the roads coming into Route 12 Riverside Drive look phenomenal. They really improved the look of the whole ride into town, but more importantly, I haven't been out in a couple of days and I have been away out of the area. I love the fact that we finally have some great safety lines. The entrance of the schools, the crosswalks, you can actually see things now. So I think that's a big kudos to Amy and the town, the state, and everybody that funded that project to get our ride into town looking a lot better and more appealing and safe.
The only comment I do have about the sidewalks, I don't think they're ADA compliant
Correct.
with the telephone poles right in the
Yeah.
middle. How would anybody in a wheelchair get by there?
They did that in Putnam too. They're plunked right in the middle.
Yeah.
You gotta, like, I saw someone with a carriage go off the sidewalk because they couldn't, I don't know why they
That's the
didn't.
only
move the
comment I
poles.
have. Other than that, they're really, really nice, really.
Check
great
out the
looking.
sidewalk when you come up past Community Fire Station. You come up off the road onto a platform and then you go nowhere. On the side of the fire station. So if you're in a wheelchair,
Yeah.
you're going nowhere because now you need a four-wheel
Right,
drive.
and right in
Really?
front of the school, you can't get by, that you're gonna go smack dab into a telephone
Yeah,
pole.
I mean, listen, it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah, I know. I
it
know.
looks great, but
But that had nothing to do with the town, right? That was.
No,
that was
the
the
state and all
state.
that.
And we
Yeah.
also, when I was at that meeting, we questioned the state engineer or architect, whoever he was, and asked him if he came out here when he designed the whole thing in front of Milltown. He says, yes. I said, were you here at night? He
Yeah,
said,
that's a
no.
safety.
I said, it's a safety hazard.
Yeah.
Something's gonna happen because we have no light. And now you want, mature clientele of some of the establishments and or handicapped or townspeople or out of townspeople with disabilities to cross not one road, two roads with no lights at night.
Speaking of lights, the one at the bottom, I'm not sure, it wasn't working. I don't know if it's working now, the caution light where the school crossing is.
Oh,
the
I don't
flashing?
know. Amy's been looking into getting those replaced.
Okay, 'cause I know
and
they
there was a
weren't
plan.
working. I didn't know if it was
But yeah,
part of that
Milltown
project, but,
mess.
people come flying around that
And it's not
corner.
our town problem.
No,
It's the
it's,
state.
I'll
you're
call
absolutely
Amy
right.
tomorrow.
I do agree with you on that one.
Oh,
The other you
other-
should be prepared for is 2023, because they've actually taken some of my land or bought some of my land from me. They're cutting that bridge at LaPorte Road and Riverside. That's gonna be totally shut down.
Correct.
So that you're gonna have that ride coming in. I think you're gonna have to go LaPorte in front of K&R and the backside into Klondike, because that's totally shutting down that bridge.
And then coming
They're
down
replacing the bridge.
200, like going.
No, Route 12 is gonna be, so you go up, was that Marcy Lane?
That's called LaPorte.
The other one that comes
Yeah,
out,
Marcy Lane.
Marcy Lane.
It's gonna be a lot of
Right.
traffic
So
to
they-
Klondike, because they're totally redoing that bridge in the start of
Ooh,
2023.
Well,
Okay, didn't they just go
Um,
on that?
And be careful down in front of Milltown as they just put new one-way. They put a beautiful
Yeah.
thing, but now you've got one entrance and one down. It's, I don't know how Dan's gonna get deliveries, honestly, because of the one way.
Yeah, I don't understand your thinking with that, but that's, whatever.
I
Not
just
our
have one
business.
quick
Not our
citizen's
issue.
comment for actually Deb, for the senior football player posters look great in the school. But we did notice that the seniors are getting their posters that Heather had suggested. So that was just wanted to say, notice that, look great, kudos to everyone.
Okay, all right. With that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second that.